In this video, we'll be accessing the index, columns, and data. So let's take a look at df2 again, which contains our new data frame with the name column in the index. So as I said earlier, the data frame is composed of three components, the index, columns, and data, and you can access them as attributes. So let's go ahead and look at the index. So in this case, it'll return an object called the index object. Now, I should say that it's not very important to understand the index object at this point. You will be working with the data frame as a whole and not typically with these objects. I'll cover them when needed, but I don't want to sidetrack and go down what this object is. For now, you can think of it more or less as a list that contains a sequence of values. And here we just have a bunch of strings like this. So that is the index over here. Now the columns are just accessed by the columns attribute. Again, these are not methods, so there's no parentheses over here. These are attributes. And we see here it looks very similar as the index object. In fact, it is also an index object. So Pandas uses the same underlying object for the columns as it does for the index. And it's this capital I index object. And again, it looks like a list of the column names as strings. Now, to access the underlying data, there is no data attribute. It's actually the values attribute. So that might be a little confusing to know, but this just extracts just the values themselves without the index and without the columns attached. And actually it returns a NumPy array object. So Pandas is built on top of NumPy. So this is a two-dimensional array object, and it is just the values. There are no labels for the rows and no labels for the columns. You can think of you can access the rows by integer location, like 0, 1, 2, just like any other array. But there are no labels anymore attached to it. All right, so accessing these individual components does not change the data frame at all. It just means that you can separately access the components using those attributes. So df2 will still be a data frame. It'll still all be intact, but you can, if you want, say I want to get the value of this index or this column name. You can certainly do that, and you can also just get the values as a NumPy array. Okay, so it's more typical to be working with the entire data frame. Right now, it's going to be somewhat rare to go down into the index and columns and values, but I just want to let you know that it is possible, and we will access them occasionally, and I think you'll understand when we get there what is happening when we do access them.